Hello, my friends. I am Marwa. I weave, paint, dance, write. I walk with plants, and I share these practices with everyone around me and tell my stories. First, I hope you can hear me better this time. I made a small upgrade to my microphone. As I shared in my last episode, I recently began taking a class in herbal formulation. I've been working with medicinal plants for some time, but since I started this class, I feel more rooted and confident in what I know. And that's been encouraging me to share more recipes with you. Today I want to talk about circulation, about blood moving through the body, carrying warmth and aliveness. I'll also be sharing a simple salve I make for circulation, especially helpful in winter, but it's still a bit cold here in the mountains where I live. And along the way, I will share some moments in the wild I've been capturing with my camera on walks and trips with my partner. You might be wondering why I'm here making videos like this, speaking about these quiet parts of life, when there's so much happening around me, when things feel urgent, even overwhelming. But for me, this space is a form of artistic expression, and art, in my experience, hasn't been where I go to process hardship or grief. It's where I go to imagine something beyond it. It stretches something inside me, like a muscle of hope. And that movement pulls me forward. Hope doesn't always come through words. It doesn't always make sense. The intellect tries to define things, to break them down, to explain them. But sometimes, in trying to put everything into words, we lose touch with that quieter part of ourselves, the part that already knows. For me, the healing power in art comes from connection, from returning to myself, from rekindling my relationship with the natural world, and trying in some way to translate something invisible into form. I'll give you the pine tree as an example. I've been inhaling pine needle steam to clear my sinuses and lungs. I spent a lot of my time weaving pine needles into baskets and teaching the craft. I made a drawing of a pine cone. I collected pine resin to varnish wood. I light fire from the branches, cones, and needles, adding pine nuts to my favorite dishes. I also made pine needle water at some point. All of these layers begin to overlap. There is a richness in the ways I can hold this abundant gift in my being, trying to understand pine tree through all my senses. And the art becomes part of that interaction. Sometimes just by looking, really looking, you begin to imagine things differently for yourself. You see new possibilities. And even if we can't measure it, even if we can't prove it in a lab, something begins to shift within. Lately, I've been feeling like I wake up as a different person every day. Each morning feels fresh. Anything can happen. I've noticed that for something like that to exist, For something unexpected or even magical to appear, there needs to be space. For a long time, whenever I wanted to speak my mind or share my opinion, it came with a sense of frustration. It felt like there was no real space for me to be heard. A big part of that came from growing up in a patriarchal environment, where voices like mine are often sidelined. I learned that I either have to interrupt or hold things in, because it seemed like if I didn't push my way in, no one would really listen to what I thought or how I saw the world. Especially in the presence of older men, that feeling became even stronger. I remember how my mom would always ask us what we thought, really encouraging us to think for ourselves and have our own opinions. She nurtured that confidence in us. But having an opinion didn't always mean there was space to express it. So there was this tension. I was raised to believe my voice mattered, yet often felt like there wasn't room for it to be heard. And I think a lot of women can relate to that. At the same time, I do feel like things are shifting now. The world is slowly changing, and girls are being heard more and appreciated for their courage and wisdom. Recording myself like this while life is still moving, still changing, it feels a bit like being a reporter from within my own life. But at the same time, speaking things out loud helps me see where I'm going, because it's easy to lose direction, especially in creative work or in the process of becoming. There are so many paths, and not all of them are clear. So this becomes a kind practice, a way to ground myself. By putting things into words, I start to notice patterns. I start to give shape to what's forming. In a way, it becomes a kind of gratitude log, something that helps me see the bigger picture. Of course, everything is allowed to shift, to evolve, even to contradict itself. I'm not trying to capture anything perfectly, just to stay close to what feels important right now. I think this is also why I'm drawn to different forms of expression. Each one reveals something different. I came across this idea in watercolor painting. It's that a lot of the time, watercolor is not about what you paint. It's actually about what you don't paint. The empty spaces, the untouched areas, hold the shape. It's called negative space. And I've been thinking about how this might apply to life. Instead of trying to label everything, every fear, every feeling, there is another way. To allow space around it. But sometimes what isn't directly seen can overpower what is, by carrying just as much truth. Now I will show you how I make the ginger and cayenne salve. I mixed freshly ground dried ginger and cayenne powder and let them infuse slowly in olive oil over a double boiler for almost 2 hours. And at some point the color began to change. It became vibrant and alive. Something had fully moved into it. That moment was really precious. I mixed the oil with beeswax to turn it into a salve. You can apply it to the skin, especially on cold areas like feet or hands, places where circulation feels slow. Ginger and cayenne are known as jupefacients, which means they help stimulate circulation when used in topical preparations to ease the pain or improve circulation. So when you apply the salve, it's encouraging warmth to return. Remember not to apply on open wounds or sensitive skin. I started to think about how this relates to what I'm doing here. Making these videos is also a form of circulation, of letting something move through me. This video itself is a result of things that have reached me through other people, through observation. It's like a chain of circulation. Something passes from one person to another, changing slightly each time. And there is something I really appreciate about that. The willingness to share things while they are still forming. It takes a certain openness and a kind of trust. Maybe that's what keeps things warm, what keeps us moving. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next episode.